Hey everybody, Jason here from iAnimate. Hopefully you're all doing great this week. So in this week's snippet, we're going to talk about how I approach using live action reference. So if you're going to be animating a cartoony type character, what I don't want you to do is shoot live action reference and copy everything exactly as you see it. What I want you to do is exaggerate, get the spirit of your live action reference and exaggerate it for the character, especially if your character doesn't look all that human. So like in our shot here with Dennis, he's sort of like a kind of a pudgy dragon type character. Like he's got really big feet and he's a very caricatured type character, right? It doesn't look realistic at all, right? So what we want you to do is shoot live action reference and take the spirit of that and then exaggerate it for the character. So let's take a quick look at our shot here and we'll just kind of hone in on one specific area, right? So we've got our character here that's established looking at a tower of cards, and then he's going to look at the cards and then he's going to go to place them on top of the tower, and then he's going to go into a sneeze, right? So we have this kind of action here where we look down, look across, and then sort of place the cards on the very top of the tower. So let's just take that one part of the animation, which is around 100 frames, okay? So we did our 3D storyboard version of that shot, right? Which is really helpful in a lot of ways because you get to know the character, you get to know the composition in relation to the objects around him. And then you kind of sort of spatially kind of figure out like what your staging area actually is. Okay. So we have our storyboard version, which has a rough timing to it, but not nailed down, right? So I have this one pose where we took our 2D and then we made a 3D version of it, kind of cleaned it up and made him sort of look at the tower, and then he'll probably look down the tower and then look at the cards, and then he's going to place them on top, right? And that's the action that we want, right? Now, when I go to shoot live action reference, what I'm looking for is some way of giving my character something to do in the initial beginning of the shot that allows us to see the scenario before he starts doing his main action. So it's sort of like a secondary type thing, but we get to feel what the character's like, right? So if we're taking like the very first 100 frames, which is basically to around here, okay, this is our storyboard version. So he looks down at the cards and then he goes to place them on top. And that's it, right? So now I will go shoot live action reference and then come back and then start to pose out the character, right? So let's go into Maya and I do exactly the same thing. I bring my reference right into Maya so that I can see exactly what's going on, right? So if I'm looking at this, I haven't changed this pose at all from what we actually saw before, but now I'm just going to start layering in what I did in my live action reference, right? So in my live action reference, I did this nice kind of inhale, exhale, kind of little sigh, like, like he's proud of what he's just done, or he finds it really appealing. He's actually being successful at something, So what I wanted to do is get this nice inhale, exhale. And you'll see here that I went through and I'll go through like frame by frame. So basically you can see everything that I'm doing here I was doing in the live action reference, but I'm exaggerating it, right? So if we take like this little inhale part, I've got like this between this key and this key, I've got basically a moving hold where he starts to move down ever so slightly. And then I've got him looking at the cards at the bottom of the tower. And then we start to do this inhale, right? So I'm looking at the timing of when my shoulders actually go up, right? And the extreme is sort of here. This is where the top of the actual pose is. So this would have been my very first pose that I did. Basically seeing like, okay, from here, I've got my shoulders up, I've got my head high. I'm still kind of keeping the angle that I had before. And then I'm going to start to go over to the other side, right? Where we get the exhale and the sigh, right? And everything that's in here is based on the spirit of the live action reference. And like I say, I exaggerate it more so that it feels more like the character. Everything in there has got some opposing actions, like I had in my storyboard. So like, when he's actually leaning forward, my feet go out, right? Feet go out. And then when he comes up, my feet come in. And then as he lands down, we get this nice little kind of reversal on the spine and the feet go out again. So we get this nice opposing action, right? And then once we get to the part where we're looking at the cards, again, I'm sort of looking at the live action reference, looking at the timing of what I'm actually doing in the live action reference, but exaggerating it more for the character, right? So that like now when I'm actually looking down, like I might be, rotating my head over a little bit more. And here's a classic thing, like I'm wearing bifocals, right? So like for me to look at cards, I actually kind of look at the bottom here, but he's not wearing glasses, right? So we simplify that. We make sure that it just makes it nice and clear that he goes from one card to the next and then up to the tower, right? And then once we're here, now I'm making a conscious decision on how he's actually going to reach forward. I want him to start with one hand before the other so that it doesn't feel like it's twinned together. It's not symmetrical as he's putting them up. Now, it may end up being symmetrical as we reach the last pose. Like as he starts to come down here, it may feel like both of them are more together. But how one comes up before the other, you get that kind of separation and it feels a little bit more natural. It feels better than life, right? Because in life, we do a lot of symmetry, a lot of twinning. So we want to try and break that stuff up. Okay. So this is the prime example of how I use live action reference. It gives me all these ideas. Like, so, before I, wanted to put in a little breath, a little sigh or something in there, but I didn't know what the overlapping actions would be. Like, how is that timing? How does the shoulders relate to the body as I'm coming up? And then what's the timing of the release? Like, does the shoulders come down first, which it does, but I didn't know the exact timing of it, right? So like now when we get to here, I've got this nice drop in the shoulders like I did here. Again, pushed more for the actual character. And then I get the little settle, exactly the way it is in live action, but exaggerated, all right? So we're just going to take a look at the first 100 frames, because that's all we've kind of been working on. And there's no facial here. We're just working on breaking down the mechanics of the actual shot so that we're getting everything to read well and to make it feel a little bit more natural, to get that character to start shining through. So we're just looking at the live action reference, and then we're looking at the actual character, taking the spirit of the live action reference and put it on the character.